I have here about a pound of peppercorns, regular unground peppercorns. What are they worth today? Today they're worth about 30 bucks. Go to Penzie's, Spice House, get a pound of peppercorns, put you back about 30 bucks. What are they worth today? Well, that's today. What have they been worth in the past? That's a different question. It's a very different answer. At times, over the centuries, pepper has been used to pay rent, to put down dowries. It has been used as part of international trade between countries when paying off debts. Gold, silver, and peppercorns have been one of the valid forms of trade. So it can be hard to pin down exactly what pepper has been worth at different times because of the changes to the market. The capitalistic market today is not the same as the barter market of previous centuries. But if you just look at how much work people put into obtaining the spices, it starts to make sense. Like the Dutch East India Company, which was sort of part of the Dutch government-ish, they were willing to have a 28% lossage rate for the ships that they sent to get these spices. The fact that the profit margin was enough that they could lose just over 1 in 4 ships that they sent, and people voluntarily got on these ships, like hired out to go. The lure of the profit on spices, on pepper, and cinnamon and cloves and cardamom and some of the other spices, but pepper was the most common. The fact that it was so high, 1 in 4 ships could be lost, and they still kept on going. And at that time, money was connected to gold and silver, and there's a limited supply of that. And you can grow more spices, and spices are shelf stable. They have an intrinsic value. Like there are ways in which spices took on some of the characteristics of money during these times, the 12th through the 17th century. And so this pepper, it was called black gold at times, like the first black gold, you might say. And so this pepper might have been worth about $500 a pound at that point in time, in the earlier centuries. A lot more than 30 bucks we pay today. So value is based upon how a society, what their focus is, right? And so the value of peppercorns in the international trade back in Roman times was made possible because of what the Romans were focused on. The Romans were focused on engineering and roads and aqueducts and waterways and be able to build things. It's amazing the Roman focus on building stuff. And once you build enough stuff to facilitate trade, you can tax trade, you can build more stuff, and so you can move peppercorns and you can tax them and you can, that makes sense, right? And then in the later centuries, the Dutch in the 15th century, what they valued was the technology of shipping and navigation, the cutting edge technology of their time. They were the masters of it. That was what their focus was. We're not looking at either of those two cultures today, though. We're looking at what the Jewish people valued. And to the Jewish people who wrote the book of Proverbs, to the Jewish sages, the Jewish rabbis, what was the value of pepper? The value of pepper was not in trade, right? The Jewish people were not known for their massive works of engineering. They were not known for their math or their navigation or anything like that. They were known for their focus on wisdom. And so the value of peppercorns to the Jewish rabbis was in how can this help me learn how to read and be faithful? How can this help me read and do what is good? And so when I came across an example of what the value of peppercorns, the Jewish rabbi, the value of a peppercorn, the Jewish rabbi was not what you could trade it for. It's that the example that can be made, that the right way to read Proverbs is to read it like it is a grain of spice. And the right way to use a grain of spice, if you want to get all the flavor out of this grain of spice, out of this peppercorn, is you put it in your mouth. And you're stuck on it. You just let it sit there. And it's going to take time. But that's how you read Proverbs. It's a fascinating difference. Romans saw peppercorns as a way to make money. Jewish people saw peppercorns as a way to teach how to read Proverbs, how to be faithful, how to live this good life. And so it's amazing how much flavor is in just a single peppercorn, because I can definitely taste that. Like, there is a lot of flavor in a peppercorn. And I remember realizing this for the first time when I was cooking a roast. And the recipe of the roast called for 6 peppercorns to be put into the crock pot. And I thought, there's no way 6 peppercorns are going to make a difference. I threw in 10, just throw in some more. I thought that would not make a difference at all. And I was wrong. I was very wrong. And the Proverbs are like peppercorns. There's a lot more there than we realize, but it takes time. It takes it takes time. It's slow work to get all the taste out of a peppercorn. And like a peppercorn, like Proverbs are like a peppercorn in that we could try to read them quickly, but to try to read Proverbs quickly would be like trying to bite into a peppercorn. You can do it. I'd like to watch you do it, because it's not fun. Like, it's just not a pleasant experience. It's painful and it's pointless. And the best thing I've done with Proverbs sort of lines up with this. Like, personally, the best thing I've ever found to do with Proverbs is to rewrite them. I've written a goodly chunk of the book of Proverbs. I get a green pen and a blue pen, and I rewrite a portion of it in one color, and then I just sort of ponder what it might mean, what I might think about it in the second color. And if I only wrote a paragraph a day out of Proverbs, that was about right. That was one peppercorn, taken slowly, pondered, and enjoyed for what it is, right? And so that's what I would suggest is we're in the middle of Lent here. We've looked at Lamentations and how to ponder dealing with grief and struggling with grief. I want to use some more of the wisdom literature for the rest of Lent, and Proverbs is part of that. How do we slow down and read Proverbs one piece at a time, enjoying it like a peppercorn that is just enjoyed for a good long time? Now, I can tell you about reading Proverbs, but there's a sense in which I can't read Proverbs for you. Like, Proverbs is a particular challenge when it comes to preaching, because I can tell you the stories of the Old Testament. I can tell you the stories of Jesus. We can get into the world of Paul and his struggles with the church at Corinth and his frustration with Galatia. We can explore the majesty of Revelation and the anger of the prophets. Like, we can get into each of those in their own distinct ways. But when it comes to Proverbs, like, it's like putting a peppercorn in your mouth. Like, I can tell you that it's worth doing, and it is. And I can do it with you, but I can't do it for you. And so I think what I can do for you in a sermon when it comes to Proverbs is I can give you some tasting notes. Like, you may notice that this happens when you get a wine. I've noticed tasting notes with wine and chocolate and beer and coffee. Like, you get these like comments about, like, it's very fruit forward, or it's hoppy if it's a beer, or like a lot of tannins in this. Like, all these hard liquor, like Scotch or whatever, has tasting notes sometimes. But frankly, I can't usually tell the difference because I don't like wine or beer or hard liquor. So chocolate and coffee I can usually tell. But like, let me give you some tasting notes for Proverbs. Like, what, as you take, if we're going to take on Proverbs and just slow down and take one proverb at a time, one paragraph at a time, what are the tastes that are going to come forward? Let me suggest 3. First, wisdom. That wisdom is the goal of Proverbs. We read it in the first verses, the Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, for learning about wisdom. The first words of the book of Proverbs says, these are Proverbs for learning about wisdom. And wisdom, what we're looking for, the taste of wisdom, is different than knowledge. Knowledge knows what can be done. Wisdom knows whether it should be done. Knowledge is abstract. Wisdom is woven into the lives of people around us. Right? The Jewish people, their culture, their treasure is not in any structure they built or any technology they pioneered. The treasure of the Jewish people was in their focus on wise living that is humble and wise and attentive to God and attentive to neighbor. Wisdom is this way of life that seeks a good life, a life in community, a life that is lived humbly and faithfully before God. And so wisdom has this inherent humility to it. And so that's the first note I want to point out. Like you're gonna, if you take some time with Proverbs, you're gonna note this wisdom theme is going to come up again and again, and that wisdom is humble because wisdom acknowledges what it doesn't know. Like, we never know more than a fraction of the results that our actions will have. Like, we never know everything that will unfold, and to act based upon that lack of knowledge, that ignorance really is what it is. We're ignorant of all the things that we're going to impact. And so to act with a sense of awareness that we're going to impact many things and a patience to acknowledge it's going to be a while before we realize what we have done and how it has rippled out and impacted others. So the first note the first tasting note of Proverbs is wisdom. The second tasting note would be discipline. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, we read in Proverbs 12. All right, whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but those who hate to be rebuked are stupid. Like, this is about as blunt as the Bible gets. Those who hate to be rebuked are stupid. That's what Proverbs tells us, Proverbs 12. A wise child loves discipline, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. Proverbs 13. It's repeated again and again. Proverbs sees discipline as a good thing, and the one who rejects discipline is the fool. Some of the harshest words in the Bible are in Proverbs and are used to describe the person who will not accept correction. Fools despise wisdom. Fools despise instruction. Proverbs 1:7. The fool is the one who insists that they're always right and cannot take being challenged or corrected. And we all need to be corrected at some time. The challenge being that we don't know when we need to be corrected and who we are going to be corrected by. Proverbs would remind us that we are right about a lot of things and wrong about others, and we don't know when which is which. And so Proverbs would advise us to listen to both the old and to the young, the experienced and the less experienced, to those who are very familiar to us and those that we have only just met. For to be disciplined in observing and listening and following others is wise. The third sort of tasting note of Proverbs is the fear that leads to obedience. Read in Proverbs 1:7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Right? Now, fear is acknowledging that there is something greater than us, that there is a God, and that I'm not God. That had this clean, the fear of the Lord is clean, we read in Psalms and other the wisdom books, and that the fear of God is an appropriate, not a humiliating thing. It's just an awareness that there is something far greater than me, and there is a call for obedience. Obedience, means towards, and the audio that comes after it means to hear. So audio, obedience is this word that means to listen towards, that we spend our lives listening towards the one who is greater than us, listening to God, out of obedience born of a fear and acknowledgement of there is a God and it's not me. That is about what I can say about Proverbs speaking to you. I can speak with you as if you want to suck on a peppercorn together, if you want to read some Proverbs together, but that's something that needs to be done together or by yourself. As I said, I can't taste a peppercorn for you. I do hope you try it. And if you're at church tomorrow, I'll hand you a peppercorn and you can suck on it and see how long it lasts. Like, I can still very distinctly taste the peppercorn right there. I hope you try it, but don't bite down on it. Don't rush it. Proverbs is not a book to be read in a hurry. One bit at a time, letting the words, letting the verses sink in, trusting that this is good, that it is worthy of all the attention we can offer it, that it assists us day by day in just everyday life, that Proverbs is the book of everyday life, of common sense, the book of discerning slowly what it looks like to live a good, wise, humble life with each other and before God. Thanks be to God.